Hello, my name is Mitchell Page, and I am going to be a senior at FGCU. I'm an economics major with a minor in statistics. So today I'm going to talk to you about my topic, which was the economic impact of salary caps on professional sport leagues. The purpose of my study will be to examine the NFL, the 1993 collective bargaining agreement, and how that imposed the salary cap on its league's teams, and what the economic outcomes were of that. The main outcomes that I'm going to address are the average player salary, the team success, and stadium attendance. And in addition, this study is going to result in a conclusion on whether or not a salary cap in general is going to encourage growth within the league. As you can see by this table, we're going to start off by the salaries, the average salaries of a player in the league. In 1993, the prior year prior to 1993, before the cap was 535.3 in thousands. That was the average salary. And then after they imposed the salary cap, it increased by 85%, as you can see by this table. So it was a large increase after they imposed the salary cap, and the trend continues all the way up to 1996, and it still continues on, but this table only goes to 1996. As a side note, salary caps impose on teams, there's a way around it. And the way around it is to have signing bonuses. And as you can see by this table, the signing bonuses drastically increased after the salary cap was imposed, because they can extend these signing bonuses over time, and they're not included in, so to speak, in the salary cap. So it's a way of paying the players for their talent without being accounted for in the salary cap. So because teams have to manage their money more effectively under the salary cap, it leads to cuts in positions, because they don't want to pay for unnecessary positions, because that money can be allocated towards other talent. So less positions mean that there's more money, that when they cut those positions, they can take that money and they can apply it to the talent they actually need. And therefore overall there's fewer athletes that are employed, but the premium talent gets compensated better for it, because they're more motivated to keep the talent that they have. So the average salary of them will increase as a result of that. Salary caps are basically designed to take those talented players on teams that are getting paid heavily and spread them amongst the league, spread amongst other teams, because if you can only pay a certain maximum, then you're going to have to pick and choose which players you're going to want to keep, because the lower players you're not going to be able to pay them as much. Like if you have two talented players, but one you feel is a better fit for the team, you're going to pay them the premium salary, and then the other one's going to get a lower salary, or is going to get offered a lower salary, but then another team will be able to pay them higher for that talent, and so they're going to leave and go to the team that'll be able to pay them more. So that'll take, instead of having two talented players, you're now going to spread out the one on the other team. And it's a win for the players because they get compensated better. So it's going to ensure more competitive balance, because the talent, the better players are going to be not on the same team. And so you can measure it if after the salary cap was imposed, if this truly did achieve that, if it really did have competitive balance, you can measure it by the wins-loss percentage of the teams in the league. Because if you had a really big team that won a lot of games because they had a lot of premium talent on the team, then you would have a really great record and you'd have a really bad record in the division. But if this indeed happened, if there was competitive balance achieved because of the salary caps and players leaving, then they would go to those teams that would have the lower records, bring those records up, and then you would also see a slight decline in the records of the number one teams, or the better teams. So you can look at that by the win-loss percentage. So we can see by this table that in 1993, we had, a 75% win-loss and on the high end, and a low end of, 18.8%. And this is just one league. This is just one division, the AFC Central. This was happening all over the league. I'm just choosing this for an example. And then in 1996, the high became 62.5%, where the low was only 25%. This was only 3 years after they imposed a salary cap. This is much better now, and it's because, and you can even see what's even more interesting is that the Bengals in 1993 were 3-13, but after the salary cap was imposed, they went to 8-8. I mean, that's not a fantastic record for a football team, but it's significantly better than 3-13. And most of the teams in that division were normalized. The variation in the win-loss percentage was significantly brought down. Another way to look at this is to look at the ratio of actual versus ideal variations of winning percentages. So this is looking at what was actually observed, what was the variation of winning percentage, what was actually observed, to what would be ideal between years. So what would be the ideal variation between years of winning as opposed to what it actually was. And so if there was competitive balance was achieved, then you would see that the ratios wouldn't change much over a year because they should be pretty much equal. And so therefore you should have on a graph, if you have a linear graph, which I'm showing you now, you should be able to draw a horizontal line through it because it's unchanging, it's unwavering over time. It's going to be about the same. And if you look at this, it bounces around, it oscillates a little bit, but it doesn't, there's no clear maximums or minimums. In other words, there's no, the variation is very normal. And if you were to put a line through it, line of best fit, it's going to be horizontal, meaning that the variation, what the competitive balance was achieved. The variation in, the winning percentages is very similar. So, and then also, if the competitive balance was achieved, then team success is going to be, overall, the leagues are going to have teams that are going to be more successful, which in turn is going to raise revenues for those teams that are becoming more successful, and in doing so is going to raise overall league revenues. And you can see this by this graph that the NFL experienced huge growth in revenues after the 1993 salary cap was imposed. So it achieved that competitive balance and allowed teams to grow and experience more revenues. And in addition, the NFL has a revenue sharing policy, so all teams benefit when the whole league makes more revenue in general. So it's a benefit for everyone, the teams and the leagues. So if team salary caps, and this is going back to the if team salary caps result in this competitive normalization, then this would mean that each team is going to be providing a higher quality product, meaning the sporting events, the games are going to be better because they're going to each are more going to be more evenly matched, and this is going to increase for a higher demand because no one wants to go see a team that's going to get blown out. So if they're not going to get blown out, if it's going to be a close game, they're going to be more likely to go see it, and the demand's going to increase. So this demand can be measured by stadium attendance. So it's worthwhile to take a look on what happened to stadium attendance after the salary cap was imposed. So in 1995, this is 2 years after it was imposed, the total paid attendance for all games, it reached a record level. And again, in 1998, this is going to be another 3 years later, and it was the highest in league history. So it's steadily increasing stadium attendance overall. And then in 1999, again increased, and in 2000 increased all time. And this is a steady trend that's still happening. It's still going up, the attendance. And what's higher relative to the salary cap, I must say. There are variations year to year basis, but in general, the trend is upwards. And I think it's relevant to mention too that this doesn't include stadium renovations because stadiums were renovated to accommodate more fans. But if anything, that should be shown an indicator that the demand was increasing for participation in the sporting event. So they renovated their stadiums to accommodate more fans. So that still is an indicator that the demand for the product is higher because competitive balance, because the teams are more competitive. So basically, in conclusion, standardized win-loss percentages and higher stadium attendance demonstrate that competition has been normalized, meaning the teams are more competitive because they have more, the win-loss percentage, the variation is lower, and more people are going to the games. And by more people going to the games, more teams being competitive with one another, the revenues for the league have been maximized. Teams are receiving more revenue streams because of the revenue sharing policies. And in addition, the free agent salaries are increasing because they're getting paid, they're getting compensated more for the talent because they're not limited to one team, and other teams are willing to pay for that higher talent. And this is indicative of a financial strategy that's basically parallel to a profit maximization approach, which is any business. That's what they want to do, is maximize profit. So in conclusion, I mean, the salary cap benefits both the players, the teams, and the league because it maximizes their revenues. So thank you guys for watching. This is my bibliography. If you guys have any feedback, you can leave it in the comments because this is a YouTube video. And thank you guys for your time.